Yo, how's it going, everybody? It's MacklinGaming, and today we have a bit of a controversial topic, which usually I don't go into those that much on my channel. But this one I couldn't look away because this is an old franchise that I really enjoyed called Dragon Age that I used to play, on the Xbox 360. I remember getting Dragon Age Origins in 2009 and playing that up until, Skyrim. Skyrim wasn't even out yet, so that was like the big RPG. It was like Dragon Age and Oblivion. But now BioWare has returned after like 10 years since Dragon Age Inquisition came out. And that game got Game of the Year, believe it or not, in 2014. But, a long time has passed. And even more importantly, the members at BioWare, the developers and like the head creators of the studio are all gone. This is pretty much a brand new studio. They might as well have a different name, right? But they're carrying on the legendary BioWare name that has made so many good RPGs that you might know, like Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, Mass Effect, and Dragon Age. Those were their three biggest RPG series. And now they're back with another installment of Dragon Age. This is Dragon Age Veilguard. And I wasn't like super interested in playing this game because of those reasons. I was like, oh, BioWare's past their prime. It's not the same members of the team anymore. And this game kind of looks a little bit like cartoony compared to old dark fantasy Dragon Age games. Like they've gone away from the same approach and tone and art style completely. So I was like, I don't know about this Dragon Age, but there have been so many controversial reviews coming out and controversy around the whole review process, which is what I want to make a point on later in this video. Because of this, I have to check it out. I gotta look into these reviews. So we're going to take a look at a couple reviews, one from IGN and one from a YouTuber, Mr. Maddie Plays, who I feel like my tastes really align with his for the most part. Like he started out as a big Bethesda, Fallout, and Elder Scrolls fan. He also is a huge BioWare fan, like the vintage BioWare with the original Knights of the Old Republic and Mass Effect games. And I love those games. So I feel like what he has to say, I'll definitely take into account here. But IGN, I don't know. Well, that's another story we got to look into and see. I used to love IGN, but I'm starting to see through the cracks of the IGN review process. And it's going to bring me to the bigger point that I want to make at the end of this video. But without further ado, let's get into it. When we're reacting, we got to equip the oversized headphones. Headphones equipped. All right, we're going to start out with the IGN review about halfway through, which is, where I think the real interesting content begins here. So, the first half, I'll summarize it for you. They had nothing bad to say about the game. They loved the exploration and the characters and all this stuff. So let's hear a little bit more about what this IGN reviewer has to say. Remember, all IGN reviewers are different. It's not just like the same person. There is like a head in charge of all the IGN reviews, and that's where I think the problem might be coming from, letting people get away with this kind of stuff. But anyway, here's the review, at least the interesting parts, I think.
Picking a favorite of the 7 Veilguard members to talk about genuinely feels like an impossible task. I really want to just say all of them are my favorite, but I had a rewarding romance.
So this person already loves every character in the Veilguard, all your NPC companions in this game. Nothing bad to say about them.
To his fledgling Griffin pal, Asan, so he's got to be my pick for this playthrough.
The favorite NPC that has this little pet griffin, that's cute and all, that's cool. So be it.
Asan, that is. Seriously, if anything ever happens to this little guy, I will wash Thetis away in a tide of fire.
Okay.
The Vincent Price-inspired gentleman necromancer Emmerich is also a delightful twist on the usual edgy goth death mage tropes.
We'll be fighting weirder stuff than necromancy.
And while we've been asked by the devs not to spoil specifically
All right, here's the interesting part for me.
Who I'm talking about here, as a non-binary person myself, Veilguard includes some of the most authentic representation of coming to terms with general gender stuff and having to navigate your family's reaction to it I've yet to see in a game. It doesn't feel like an after-school special or like I'm being pandered to. It's quite well handled, and finding out that the writer for this character is non-binary themselves did not surprise me at all.
How about that? Okay. So let me first of all say I have absolutely nothing against non-binary folk. You know, if that's what makes you happy, if that's what makes you feel comfortable in your own skin, I don't care. It doesn't bother me, you know, except when I'm trying to play a fantasy RPG. And we've got these issues coming up in a fantasy game. Is it that you want dragons and magic and non-binary people all to be grouped together in one game? That sounds like, you know, you're putting a lot of fantasy elements into a game that aren't real. And then you're also throwing in, you know, non-binary issues. It's like, oh, is that fantasy too? Like, is that what you want the player to think? Like, it's all just make believe? Like, it's weird to be throwing that into a game that is so fantasy based, right? But how about that? You've got, you know, out of all the IGN reviewers who reviewed this game, you got a person who's non-binary reviewing this game, talking about how the developers of this game are non-binary, not all of them, maybe like one or a few of them, and they wrote in a non-binary character to this game. And there's a whole like side quest about it. And they say it's not pandering to anybody. And then, all right, so let's see. What did they give this game at the end of the day? Okay, they gave it a 9. It's amazing. Remember, they gave Dragon Ball a 7. Okay. Just for reference, like, man, like, okay, so, you know, I'm not going to judge. I haven't played the game yet. But this person really seems to love this game, Dragon Age. All right, let's check out Maddie's review. Like I said, you know, he's a great reviewer of games, tries to always be neutral. It seems, you know, he's even given like his beloved Bethesda and mine as well, like a very low kind of review of Starfield. He didn't really like Starfield, you know, and like I understand that for sure. So he's not just going to say, oh, because it's BioWare, I love BioWare, this is going to be another like 9 out of 10 review. But let's just hear what he says anyways.
The emotions I experienced throughout this review process was unlike anything I've ever gone through before. It was strange, man. I'm gonna keep it real. Like, it was saddening as the realization set in hour by hour how much this game had let me down. I've had the game for about 2 weeks, put over 50 hours into it, finishing the main story, all of the companion missions, and a bulk of the remaining side content. I'm at 72% of the way to the Platinum Trophy if you need a reference for how much of this game I've cleared off, but I'm not going to bury the lead any further. You're probably as surprised as I am to be hearing me say these things, but no single game has made me go through the string of emotions this one has, because its characters evolve as little as its gameplay.
Its characters evolve as little as its gameplay. So those are already 2 huge negatives that he has to review about the game. The companions, which the other reviewer said they couldn't even tell which one they liked the least. They love them all so much, right? So I hear from Maddie there's not great character growth in these companions, and he couldn't even decide if it was better or worse than the gameplay. So, oof.
Mistakes made with plot pacing are innumerable. Final 2 hours of the game, making them feel...
So we've got poor pacing in the writing to where only the last 2 hours of the game are like vintage BioWare with your choices and like epic quests that'll change the ending of the game, right? Left all the way to the end.
Really minimal in the scheme of things. Past Dragon Age games matter little here if your 3 available choices in the keep taught you anything before launch, and I'll detail that one later. And last but definitely not least is the line delivery and writing quality are at times embarrassingly low, even for those who have sworn off BioWare for years and are not like me and have continued to play their games and look forward to them. So,
oof. All right. So we've got bad writing, bad voice acting, you know, line delivery, same kind of deal. So, ooh, that doesn't sound good. Let's see what else.
Look at me try to select a actually mean-spirited dialogue option and what my player says.
If we had a stronger civil government instead of a bunch of circus criminals, the Antam wouldn't have a foothold in the first place.
Who is this?
And because of this...
Okay, so, you know, he's just saying how BioWare games have always gave you the choice to, you know, react in certain ways and say things like if you want to be kind of a jackass, you know, or you can be like a really good guy, right? So he's choosing deliberately to choose like the jackass, you know, kind of negative response there, which says, "Who is this fool?" And then the actual voice line in the dialogue of the game just goes, "Who is this?" Like they don't even, you can't even call him a fool. You know, it's like he's trying to be like a rude asshole character and they just like don't even write good content for that. Like that's not even a good option anymore.
I could not stand my character.
That's super interesting. Like he tried to, you know, voice his own personal opinions into the game by choosing a couple of the dialogue options, which you usually could do in BioWare games just fine. Like they'd cover both bases, like I said, but like the writing's so bad, like he couldn't even feel like he was actually saying the things or agreeing with the things that his character was saying in the game.
The one who is at the center of this world, my Rook, I could not stand because anytime he talked, he was not saying what I wanted to say. And in turn, the world was not reacting to what I wanted to say. It felt so stripped of the things that matter to me in an RPG.
That's a huge statement. I love that statement right there. So that's really, that kind of sums it up. Like the writing's just like not good enough. So let me read one more statement from him just in his description because it kind of sums it all up for him. So after years of coverage on the Veilguard, which yeah, this game's taken like 8 to 10 years to make, it fell woefully short of my expectations. Repetitive gameplay, low quality writing, and he played it for 55 hours and couldn't really find anything that he loved about it. So it's a bummer, right? It's pretty sad. I feel like that's like a pretty genuine review from a YouTuber who loves BioWare, you know, or loved the old BioWare, right? So you've got a genuine review here. And what do we have here? Like, what is this review? And this brings me to the point that I want to make. All right, oversized headphones are coming off. This brings me to the point that I want to make about this whole video. And it's not just about, you know, the stupid specifics of the Dragon Age game. It's about the review process and how I think BioWare just gave reviews out to the people that they knew were going to give it positive reviews. And I hear they kind of just like ghosted anyone else. Like Extra Life is another huge RPG channel and they did a first impressions video. Apparently that was just not so hot on the game. And then they got ghosted for like an actual review copy or something. Like they couldn't get back in touch with the BioWare people to get the actual review copy so they could do a full review. It's like, no, you know, you weren't going to say nice things. So what is this called? This is access journalism. This should be like illegal, you know? This is what you call access journalism, where people are just pandering for the best positive reviews of their game and they're not giving everyone the fair opportunity to review the game, and you're going to get warped reviews of the game that are going to tell people the way the game is, and the game might not actually be that way. So I think that can be really dangerous for the video game industry and like the players like us. Like I used to look at IGN's reviews and be like, oh, this one got a great review, must be a great game. You know, now I'm just not so sure. You know, they gave Dragon Ball Sparking Zero a 7. I think that should be a 9. I think this game should be a 7, but you know, it's just my opinion. I haven't played Dragon Age yet. But after all that's said and done, even with this controversial review process, I do have to say, personally, I think this game looks really good visually. It might have bad acting and bad writing and all this cringe stuff in there, but the game really visually looks nice and pleasing to me. Like, I don't mind the art style that they're going with. I can see that it's not going to be the same Dragon Age that it used to be, and it's fine. So many years have passed. Like, I get it. They have to move on and try something new with it. And I am actually tempted to pick this up on PC and see if I can get it running pretty nice, because the graphics look really good. But, you know, that kind of goes against what I like to usually say about games, which is graphics don't really matter. It's about, you know, the actual gameplay and the story and all that stuff. So I'm just curious to check this game out. Are you guys going to pick up Dragon Age the Veilguard? Let me know if you like this video or dislike. Leave a like, leave a dislike, leave me a comment. Let me know what you feel about this controversy here with Dragon Age, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.